order for the Corporation of the Township of Portland on September 16th, 2020. And was that my computer? Whose was that? And I will start with roll call. And is it Councillor Bailey's turn to go first?
Yes, present.
Councillor Bulmer.
Present.
Councillor Goida.
Present.
And Councillor Sapoulis.
Present.
All right, so now we have the confirmation of the agenda. Ms. Whitefox, you want to read that resolution, please? Oh, sorry, I missed the moment of reflection. Give me 1 minute. We're going to do our moment of reflection, and it will begin right now. Okay, that concludes our moment of reflection. And now, Ms. Whitefox, if you don't mind, read the confirmation of the agenda, please.
The council approves the September 16th, 2020 council agenda and addendum as circulated.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Sapoulis, seconder.
I will.
Councillor Goida, any comments or questions before call? Okay, all in favor? Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Bulmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Sapoulis,
In favor.
and I am in favor. All right, next is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Give me disclosure of pecuniary interest?
No.
No? Excellent. All right, now on to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that we would like removed for the consent agenda? I have one that I will discuss, but I'll give council the opportunity first. Nobody? All right, Ms. Whitefox, I would like 6.7, Municipality of Tweed resolution regarding cannabis production removed. If that's possible, please.
Okay, I could read the resolution to accept the remainder of the items then.
Please.
That the consent agenda items, with the exception of item 6.7 listed for the September 16th, 2020 council meeting, be received for information.
Thank you. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Sapoulis, seconder. Councillor Bulmer?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor? Councillor Bailey?
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Bulmer?
Favor.
Councillor Goida?
In favor.
Councillor Sapoulis?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Let me just quickly pull up that one agenda. So basically, it just talks about the difficulties with cannabis operations and not having any zoning. And my first thought was, should we ask the county for their comments on this particular problem? And I don't know, Glenn, does staff have any comments they want to talk about that particular resolution? From Tweed?
Sure. We have discussed this as staff internally as well. We have some of the same questions or concerns that were identified in that resolution. And that's why we are recommending that we try and move up the development of the policy that was identified in the work plan with the county sooner than what was originally anticipated, just because of issues like this, because we're experiencing the same type of issues and challenges.
Okay. Is there any appetite for council to support this resolution from Tweed? Councillor Bailey?
I had made a note, maybe I'll turn my, yeah, I had made a note that I definitely wanted to receive it for information. So I think it will be handy to have for when it's our turn to make some of these decisions.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer?
I'm neutral on it.
Okay. Councillor Goida?
I think I'm neutral on it as well. I guess I have a hard time differentiating whether cannabis production is considered to be pharmaceutical or just regular farming. In which case, you know, my mind might change on it depending on how you would view it. So I think at this point, I don't know that I am passionate enough about it to endorse it or anything, but I'm open to continuing the conversation.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. Councillor Schools?
Yes, my main concern is the feds having the top dog, so to speak, approach to say anybody wants to open up a cannabis facility can. They don't have to respect our bylaws and such. With respect to whether it's pharmaceutical or not, that to me is moot, but the fact that it can be parachuted into our community someplace and we can't do anything about it, that has a bigger concern for me.
Yeah, I think we should just keep our focus on, you know, the development of this. And this is similar to when we mentioned that the water taking veto right should possibly be in the, you know, the zoning component of you know, an application. That way, if it's an approved use, and this is similar, we want the zoning to approve the use and not just be pushed on us. So I'm okay with not supporting the resolution, but definitely, as Glenn mentioned, we're maybe going to be seeing more of this in the near future, just to make sure that we have our policies in place. That's correct. Glenn?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
I have a question for our CAO. When do you expect your work with the county to be completed?
I can't give you a completion date yet. It was something that was initially moved to next year. That's when it was planned for, but now we're moving it forward. So I can't tell you when it's going to be completed yet. We still have to have our discussions with the county staff. We're hoping as soon as we can, but this is going to be a quite involved process. So it's not going to be anytime soon, but we're doing the best that we can.
Okay, so you figure it'd be this year or next year?
A lot of work will be done this year. I don't know if it's going to be completed this year or not, though.
Fair.
Likely early next year, I would think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. White Fox, could you read a resolution to receive that one for information, I assume?
The consent agenda item 6.7, Municipality of Tweed resolution be received for information.
Thank you. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. All in favor? Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
Favor?
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
I'm in favor. That's carried. All right. Ms. White Fox, would you be able to bring Mr. Mitchell in for our delegation? Mr. Mitchell,
Good afternoon.
how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. I believe we're ready. So whenever you want to, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Sealy and members of council for inviting me back to provide you with an update on the hauling of the aggregate that we have from our Dufferin Pit number 2 on Victoria Road to our Dufferin Pit number 1 on Brock Road. As requested by council at the last council meeting, Dufferin did deliver letters to the residents on Badenoch Road from Morriston to Victoria Road. We also thought it would be a good courtesy to extend the same to the residents that are on Victoria Road from Badenoch Road all the way up to our pit. And in fact, we went right up to Wellington Road 34. So in total, we delivered just over 70 letters to the residents along that route. Those notices were provided to the residents on Friday, September the 4th. Also on Friday, September the 4th, we met with the county and the road construction contractor doing the road roundabout work to sort out the details on how the traffic that we have from the pit would be going through the construction zone. And we came to an agreement on that, and it's been working. So on Tuesday, September the 11th, we began using the temporary haul road. We did start shipping at the 7 a.m. temporary early hour rate time as well. Now, depending on what kind of construction is taking place in the roundabout project, we're not always able to use the normal trucks. Depending on how the curbing or grading and that sort of thing is going, at times we're not allowed to use some of the trailers. And on certain days, we're only allowed to use triaxle trucks. And so it has definitely increased our cost, but it's also reduced the amount of material that we're able to haul. We typically are using 11 trucks a day, and it takes about 15 minutes longer for each truck to make a round trip from pit to pit and back to get loaded again. Our staff have been monitoring the haul route and watching the trucks to make sure that everyone's following the rules of the road. We did get one call, and I would call it a complaint. It was from a resident. They didn't identify themselves and they didn't say where they lived, but they indicated that one of the trucks was speeding. They gave us with a license plate. We spoke to the truck driver, and that's all we've heard from anybody. The most recent estimate that we got this morning was that the construction schedule is a little bit behind. It may not take the full 5 weeks to get done, but it's definitely going to be slower than originally anticipated by the contractor. And we've also been advised that we're not going to be able to haul on certain days next week. We'll just be shut down from going through there. As a result of the reduced trucks and the shortage and that sort of thing, we have eaten into our stockpile. We have a little bit left there, but because of the additional costs, we have not been hauling excess materials. It is that much more cost that we're running down, we're going to run the gas tank down as low as we can get to here while still keeping the plant going. So our request would be to go at least another 2 weeks under the same premises that we're temporarily allowed to use the temporary haul road, as well as having the 7-to-7 trucking. We're finding that that's been beneficial. And that would be our request today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Councillor Bailey.
I have no questions for Mr. Mitchell at this time. Nope.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
I gotta admit, I must admit I got this one a bit wrong when I was thinking about it last time. I expected to get a bit more concerns from people on Badner Road, but all the concerns I heard were from the people on Victoria Road. I hadn't anticipated how shocked they would be at allowing us allowing trucks on a brand new road that they just paid to have redone last year. And so I did get some complaints. I think I got in total, I heard from at least 3 residents, either in both phone calls and emails or just emails. And they make a good point. And I know we did discuss the impact of the road and the cost sharing. And I am I remain concerned that if that falls to the county entirely, that's still our pocket. So I'm hoping that whatever arrangement we come to regarding that change, any repairs that are required, it doesn't entirely fall back onto our pocket. I recognize you didn't create the problem, and I'm empathetic to that situation. But at the same time, this leads to my question then, I guess, would be, you also operate the Mill Creek pit. Is it not possible to redirect some of the trucks from the Honidle pit over to the Mill Creek pit and bring material from there instead?
We've taken a look at that as well as an option. And in fact, the haul is similar to the longer route that we're going now. And so the cost to do the hauling would be similar. But what it also means is that's a cost we don't currently have, because the material goes onto a conveyor belt and gets fed directly from the pit face right to the processing plant. So it in fact is even more hard for us to do that, because it's even more money than it's costing right now. So we did take a look at that, but our preference is to keep it going through there. The plant's also, if we're going to bring trucks over into there, we would need to take a look at access points and that sort of thing over there as well, because where the water bodies are located and the way that we're almost finished, and so it may have to go on the conveyor back to the plant and around that way. And so traffic flow would be upset. But we did look at that as an opportunity potentially as well.
Yeah, and I must admit, I'm glad you did that, because although nobody's asked that, I thought if they do, I want to be able to have an answer that it's been considered. I'm actually, turns out I'm quite pleased that the mayor and other members of council suggested not going the full stretch. It gives us this opportunity to look at this as we go. It gave me some comfort actually when I received the complaints that I could tell people we were going to look at it weekly or by every 2 weeks as we went through this. I guess the only other piece, the other concern that was expressed had to do with not just your trucks, but the overall amount of traffic and speed on the road. I know that's not your issue, but maybe this is a question for staff, or how can we, if we extend this again, how can we encourage additional presence of the OPP, just driving up and down the road once in a while to encourage the traffic to behave itself? I know you said you've got staff, but I'd like to see if there's some way we could get an extra enforcement presence there, just because this is causing a concern for residents with a mix of, as Councillor Bailey mentioned, school buses in Aberfoyle, but it's concerning to people down there. The mix of trucks and speeding cars and school buses is creating additional concerns.
So I'll just step in real quick there. Councillor Bulmer, we as council can just contact Mr. Richardson, the detachment commander for the OPP, and ask for additional enforcement in Morriston while this agreement is in place. If that's your desire. I drive that. Sorry.
You know, I'd like to at least raise it as a possibility, just because it was the one piece that was common, that the safety, the speeding, and the damage to the road were the three things that were common about the complaints that I received.
Okay, I would, okay, that's, with it on the table, I would suggest maybe saying to Mr. Mitchell that he relay that information to his drivers, that if we continue to receive complaints over the next few days about the speeding, then we're going to request additional enforcement in that area. And the last thing a commercial vehicle operator wants is demerit points against their commercial CVOR and their personal license, because then their insurance rates go through the roof. So I think what would it be, a warning shot over the bow would be appropriate first, and we can continue to monitor it. And I encourage council members, if they're receiving speeding complaints, forward them to all council, and then we can deal with it. But that would be my approach at this point. Give them a chance to behave. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Councillor Goida. Sorry, you moved. You're down here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I would be supportive of what you've just said, Mr. Mayor, about the monitoring the speed. Just a quick question, perhaps, to the Director of Public Works. There's 11 trucks. Mr. Mitchell has said there's 11 trucks that are currently being used. Has there, in the last couple of weeks, been any noticeable damage or impact to the roadway?
When this program started, we initiated an inspection probably around 2 in the afternoon, just to monitor the road. This time there's been no signs of distress or any type of damage that has been done to the road. The one reason this road was identified as being a suitable detour route was because of the current volume of traffic. Last year it was constructed above townships, we'll say, expectations or requirements. Instead of a 60 mil lift, we now have a 90. So there is a little bit more cushion to basically accept this type of heavy traffic, but it's certainly not something I would encourage as a full-time endeavor.
But if we were to extend this for another 2 weeks, would you anticipate that the road for any reason may not be able to handle that?
In my opinion, another 2 weeks would not be detrimental to the road. We are entering fall, where cooler daytime temperatures are also in our favor, so we don't have extreme heat. heating up the road surface and causing rutting or anything like that. So I'm comfortable with another 2-week extension.
Okay, thank you.
And to add to that point, another reason why this route was chosen the way it was because the trucks are running empty on Victoria Road, so they're significantly less heavy
Right.
and less likely to do damage. So we were not, well, I'm pretty sure the director wasn't in favor of heavy trucks, loaded trucks being on this road, but empty. So that'll minimize the chances of any damage. So that's great. Anything further, Councillor Rita?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Spoulos?
I have a question for Mr. Mitchell. What is the round trip time for a truck?
It is, they're not getting 2 loads an hour. So they normally would get 2 loads an hour, but they're getting 15 minutes less than that. So I can do the math here, but you've got me on the spot. It's probably 2 hours and 15 minutes or plus or minus. It's an hour and 15 minutes for them to do the 2 trips.
Okay, that's all I've got. I support our mayor's comments with respect to traffic control, and I would be in favor of extending this by another 2 weeks and have Mr. Mitchell come back in 2 weeks' time if he needs another extension.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mitchell, I'm really appreciative of the fact that you delivered letters all through Morriston, and I mean, this problem was put on your plate and it could have been easily taken the position that, well, you send the letters to the municipality sent them because you made this problem, but you grabbed the bull by the horns, and I didn't sense any resistance or hesitation from you. So I really appreciate that. It's just being transparent with our community members. Like I said, I drive that route quite often. I believe most of your trucks were, abiding by the speed limit, but once they got out of Morriston and they started to get out where it's a little more rural, they're still in the 50 zone and they're starting to cook it a little bit. So I would just ask you to caution them to remain at the speed limit until they leave the 50 km/h zone. The other thing I want to talk to you about is on my way to work, the trucks were parked with their 4-ways on Victoria Road waiting for the gate to be open. And you're allowed to haul from 7 a.m. What time are your trucks showing up at the pit?
That I don't know the exact time, but that is not allowed by us. I'm glad you brought that up. I was not aware of that, and we'll address that as well. That will not be happening. And if it does, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know.
As long as the gate's open, then they can get in the pit at least, right? I don't want to micromanage this situation, but if your guy can be there before the first truck, so they're not parked on the road. And anyway, so those are my comments. But I'll be glad to see you come back in a couple weeks. And we'll see if construction's on time for the roundabout, and hopefully it's still working for you.
We really appreciate that. And just to speak to the extra policing, we have no issue with that. We tell the drivers all the time that they need to respect the rules of the road and the community in which we operate. And so we fully support the township and would contact the police as well if needed.
Well, and I would really like you to specifically say to your drivers, the council is giving you a chance. If they receive complaints, which are very easily done, emails, then I'm gonna lean on the inspector, and we're gonna have OPP cars sitting there. And I know as a former commercial truck driver, that's the last thing I want to see in my day-to-day life. That's how they make their living, is on their license. So I think that'll be enough of a warning that they'll comply personally. So
no, we're prepared to do that. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Do we need a resolution to extend that agreement, Ms. White Fox?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
That the delegation by Kevin Mitchell, Director of Property Planning and Approvals for CRH Canada Group Inc. with respect to Aberfoyle Pit 2 Township of Puss Lynch agreement be received, and that due to the construction and road closures in Aberfoyle, Council agrees to extend the current exemptions for an additional 2 weeks as follows. Temporarily exempt Section 12 of the Aberfoyle Pit 2 Township of Puss Lynch agreement dated April 2nd, 1980, and permit truck traffic to travel on the return trips as follows. Southerly on County Road 46 to County Road 36, and then easterly on County Road 36 to Victoria Road, and then northerly on Victoria Road to the entrance of the Aberfoyle Pit number 1, and temporarily amend Section 3 of the agreement, hours of operation for hauling, to Monday to Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., and that Kevin Mitchell, Director of Property Planning and Approvals for CRH Canada Group, report back on the temporary hours of operation for hauling and temporary haul route at the October 7th, 2020 council meeting.
Can I move her for that, please? Councillor Swillis, seconded by Councillor Bulmer. All in favor? Councillor Bailey?
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Bulmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Swillis?
In favor?
I'm in favor. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you
See
very
you in
much.
2 weeks. All right. So next we have public meeting, September 16th, 2020. Meeting held by electronic participation at 7 p.m. tonight. And I have a little blurb here that says, in addition to property tax revenues, municipalities may charge for goods and services such as recreational rentals, development applications, building permits, etc., through authority which is set and approved by a bylaw adopted by council. So that public information meeting is tonight. All right. Yes. Reports. We have none from Pleasant Fire, none from Finance, Administrative Department, Shared Service Agreement bylaw. Mr. Schwendinger, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, a couple of things to add to this. One correction from what I had stated in the report with regards to the cost, with regards to some overhead cost, training, memberships, those types of things. Those will also be split on a 60-40, not the 50-50, just to clarify that. And then there's been a question with regards to the term of the agreement. Had a number of discussions with Guelph Aramosa about this. Currently, there is no term on the agreement. The reason I say there is one in my report is that's the agreement that they have with the individual themselves. So what we're looking at is the agreement right now, as it's written and as you see it, will just continue to go on. There is plenty of time in there if either municipality has a change in their need for violent enforcement service, increase, decrease, whatever, that we have mechanism in there. So it's felt that we don't necessarily need a termination clause for the agreement, but Guelph Aramosa was open that if our council insisted on it, they would put one in as well. But both of us felt that we could operate with the agreement as it is, but it's at your discretion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I guess my question was the term of employment, but another one, turn off my video. And maybe this is getting too detailed, but how does it work if there's an on-call type situation? So if the staff person is in Guelph Aramosa and something comes up where they're needed in Puslinch, how does that work?
The way that would work would be on a priority basis, and it's going to be that would be determined on a case-by-case basis. If it was if they were working on a matter in one municipality that had been raised there, and then they got a complaint of something taking place, say in Puslinch, they wouldn't drop what was going in Guelph Aramosa unless it was a emergency matter that needed attention right away. There was, a safety issue involved or an environmental issue or something like that. What they would do then is at the next available opportunity, likely the next day or so, they would then return to Puslinch and deal with the matter at that time. The whole focus of this agreement, and which we both wanted to make sure was in there, was that it's not written in stone that the person has this many hours this week in the municipality, and then they get to, oh, well, it's 4 o'clock on this day. I'm not quite done this, but so what? That's the end of my time here. I'm going back to the other municipality. That's not how it's going to work. If they need to work more in one municipality one week than another, that's fine. That's what will happen. And we're going to work together between the administration staff of the municipalities to track those and to make sure that if there's an urgent matter, a matter that's consuming more time, then the resources are allocated there if at all possible. And we'll just make sure by the end of the year, it all balances out.
Great. Councillor Bulmer.
I think it's fine. I appreciate the flexibility that's built into it. I'm glad for the clarifications where the modest contradictions between the report and the agreement. So staff at both municipalities are on the same side as council is, who's signing it. That's good. And yeah, the mutual termination clause allows it to run for whatever length both parties deem is appropriate. So I'm comfortable with it, and I recognize that there'd be some weeks where we never see the person, and there may be some weeks when Guelph Aramosa never uses the person, and I think it's more than appropriate that the staff at each location manage that to make sure it all balances out. So good work. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Goyda?
I have no questions. I am comfortable with this agreement. I think that it will be a great benefit to both municipalities and allows for a lot of flexibility, as Councillor Balmer just indicated. So I'm good with it.
Excellent. And Councillor Spoulos?
Yes, I'd like to thank staff for coming up with a solution that makes effective use of resources for both our townships. Certainly it means we'll have more direct contact with this individual than we had before, and fully supportive of the agreement.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Glenn as well for the hard work in getting this agreement put in place, and I also want to thank council for supporting. This is a service increase, and you know, personally, I receive 2 to 3 bylaw complaints per week, and our staff just wasn't able to keep up. So I'm very appreciative of council supporting this and providing this service to our residents. You know, it's going to go a long way in mitigating some issues throughout our community, and I look forward to this agreement working well into the future. I spoke with the mayor of Guelph Aramosa. He's excited to work with us. He was glad we could get together on this, and he's hopeful that this can last as long as forever. But you never know. Our needs may change, but this is great. I'm excited. So, all right. We have a separate resolution for that report?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
That revised report ADM 2020-036 shared service agreement bylaw enforcement be received for information, and that council give 3 readings to bylaw 2020-042, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the shared service agreement as presented with the Township of Guelph Aramosa for bylaw enforcement.
Okay, mover please. Councillor Bailey?
Yep.
Seconder, Councillor Goyda?
Sure.
All right, all in favor? Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
All right, Councillor Bulmer?
In favor?
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos?
In favor?
And I'm in favor. I was just trying to mix up the movers and seconders. Get some different names on there. All right,
Thank you very much.
no problem. All right, so the next one is the emergency response plan report. And are we going to bring Linda in? There she is. Well, there's a new one. Irina. Hi, Linda. Is she muted? Am I muted? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay. Never know if my internet's working.
Linda doesn't seem to have a microphone. There she is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes.
hi, Linda.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
I'm just, if somebody can hear me, can you just kind of wave at me? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Mayor Sealy. I appreciate that. So I could hear you guys talking before, but I can't hear you talking now. So I will move forward. Mayor Sealy, a member of council, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today on a proposed emergency response plan for Township of Puslinch, County of Wellington, and the other member municipalities in Wellington. This updated plan has been a few years in the making. We've actually been talking about it for a few years at our Emergency Management Program Committee meetings. You can see a bit of the background of the report. The current plan was more or less a compilation of all of our past 8 emergency response plans and not a lot of enhancements to it. We've had a number of responses in the past 10 years, and those are listed in the report, just to itemize a few. So there's a number of updates that I have included in the report. Also, along with that, spoke to that in the presentations that were provided over the summer. There were 2, and there was a video recording of that as well, made available if there was an interest to view that. So the report just kind of highlights some of the areas. Just a couple of things. Under item 3, a new area under the declaration. Basically, the declaration is just kind of an enhancement to the wording. Still allows for municipal declarations as provided for under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Still provides for county to make declarations. And I will note that even though, as we've had in this case, municipalities declared emergency and the county declared emergency, it doesn't mean that one takes precedent over the other. You're responding to the emergency at your local municipality as the county is with respect to its services. So there's not any jurisdictional piece there. It's just the ability for both to do that. We've added a section with respect to orders because of the order process that we went through with the warden's order supporting Dr. Mercer's Section 22 order. We've added a little bit in the declaration section to just clarify what is meant by orders and a checklist of things to consider when putting orders in place. Municipal emergency control groups, the roles and responsibilities haven't been changed a whole lot in that section, but there has been some consultation with some of the control group members just to fine tune and make sure that their roles and responsibilities are still in keeping with what they can provide. So we did a consultation, as you see, with the fire chiefs, the treasurers, and that resulted in a brand new section, which is referred to under item 6, financial considerations. It also took into account all of the areas which were spread out through the plan that talked about financial considerations and put them into one section, which makes it easier for the treasurers to reference, but it also makes it easier for the public to reference because this is a public-facing document. Reviewed with water and wastewater, public health has updated some of theirs. We've had some consultation with HR staff, hydro, and Guelph Wellington paramedics. And I should also note our risk management official reviewed their section of the plan as well. Just a couple of other highlights. The emergency social services section. We've always had a separate plan for emergency social services, but I think putting it in the document, it was not very well referenced. We put it in the document. Everybody can see it in the document and they can reference it both again from a response perspective, but also for the public. And we did something very similar with debris management. It's been an area that we've talked about since the first tornado responses we had in 2003 with Center Wellington and Mapleton, and we've dealt with it through ice storms and floods. So it has been reviewed by our solid waste services and manager and county treasurer. It's not a lengthy section, but again, it's intended to be some key points for consideration, I think, for councils, for municipalities, for response, and for the public as well when looking at those situations and how we might be handling an overabundance of debris in certain types of emergencies. And then we've had a few minor changes and some comments with respect to the plan since the presentations, and that's what is at the end of the report. It's just a few minor changes that we've made to the plan after that consultation process. So that's a highlight. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you'd like. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Linda. We always appreciate your reports. And from what I understand, is this the last time that you, oh, she can't hear me. I'm blabbing away and she's trying to give her some recognition. Can you hear me? Maybe I'll babble away and she can just watch it on YouTube later. Yes. Are you there, Linda?
I apologize. I know you're talking and you're probably asking me questions, but I cannot for whatever reason, now hear you. So my apologies. If you have questions,
Give me 1 second. Can you see that? Watch on YouTube later. So even though you can't hear me, Linda, I'm gonna let council know I believe this is Linda's last meeting with us. She's retiring. And I just wanted to give her recognition to the wonderful job that she has done for the county and for all the member municipalities. I can speak for this pandemic being on the, and Councillor Goydekin as well. She's kept everybody on point for those mayor calls and dealing with this pandemic and making sure that the appropriate actions were taken. It's been fantastic to work with you, Linda, and I hope you see this on YouTube later. It's unfortunate we can't have a quick little conversation, but I'll let council say some words to you as well. Councillor Bailey.
There we go. Yes, thank you, Linda, for all the work you've done to coordinate all the different aspects into one document. This looks pretty clear. I did have one question. We talk a little bit on page 6 about public awareness, and I'm just wondering, sorry, I'm going to page 6.
Can I just pause you for a quick second,
Yep.
Councillor Bailey? Ms. Hoyt Fox, would you be able to take notes on these questions that we can maybe send to Linda after the council meeting so that we can get some answers for them?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Carry on, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I guess my question was just public awareness. I didn't know what the plan was for educating the public when there is some sort of emergency. We talked about if hydro was down, but we haven't talked about if internet is down, because it seems that a lot of the information gets put out through internet. So I guess that was just a question I had about how to notify the public with this new emergency plan.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Dixon, for all your service. I also had the opportunity to serve with you, the Green Legacy Committee.
Yeah, but you're not connected into the meeting.
Oh.
So leave it.
They did. They put me in.
Did they put you in?
So I'm
Here's somebody else?
muted and I.
That's Linda talking.
Oh,
Why we can hear her.
yes,
She's
of course.
muted.
But I have no questions, but I'm going to miss her and her calm demeanor in that seat as emergency planner.
Excellent. Councillor Goyda.
I don't have any questions about the report, and I don't think Linda can hear, but I as well would like to reiterate my thanks to Linda for just being so amazing at what she does. I can say that in my short time on council, I never really knew what I was getting into myself into with emergency management, but I definitely have a newfound appreciation for all the work that goes into it. And that's mainly due to Linda's work. So thank you very much, and best of luck with your retirement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, I have no questions. I wish Linda well in her retirement. She's been a inspiration to people in this emergency management to motivate us to look upward to meeting the challenges associated with emergencies.
Excellent. Well, unless Linda can hear us now. I guess
actually, I can. Can you hear
Oh.
me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, good.
Oh, you're
Good.
back.
Technical difficulties. So sorry, I caught a bit of that. Thank you, everyone, for those kind words. But if there was any questions, I'd be happy to. I know there was a couple, but happy to try and address them if I can.
Councillor Bailey had one question, so I'll let her take that opportunity right now.
Thank you.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Just a question on spreading awareness of the plan. Sorry, my papers are of the emergency plan. Just sort of the process process to making the public aware? Was sort of the first part to the question. The second part is if and when in an emergency, if internet's down, what is the process for that?
Okay, so, well, good questions and thank you. So in terms of the plan itself, we do have the current plan is always available on the website, but we could definitely do some social media awareness through the county and through local communication staff, just to blitz that we have a new emergency response plan and where it can be located on both the county website, and we encourage you to post it on your own local website as well. And from a public perspective, it would be challenging if they don't have internet to be able to access it. From a response perspective, for the municipality and for those responding, we always have hard copies available in the emergency operations centers for reference. I will also say too that is a big part of our job as emergency managers, program committee coordinators for the municipalities, is that we need to know and understand those documents inside out so that we can be able to advise you of that as well. So if there's any questions during those situations, we can always address what's in the plan with you. I hope that helps answer your questions.
Does that help, Councillor Bailey? Also, Linda, did you want to take an opportunity to introduce your replacement?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sealy. So on the call today with you is the new emergency manager, Urania Melgar. She's been with us since September 8th. There's actually a bylaw for consideration for council today to consider appointing her as your new emergency manager. I think the effective date is for September 25th, once we get the bylaws through all the municipalities. So yeah, I don't know if you want Urania to give you a bit of a background, but she's been with us for 2 weeks and it's been good. Thanks.
Excellent. Urania, I'll ask you to maybe give an introduction, but you don't have to read us your resume. But yes, it's great to see you here, and I'll tell you a fun little story. I said to my wife before this meeting, I said, here's a warning. I'm going to wear the same suit I wore earlier this week. Nobody will be at this meeting that's seen me wear it, and here you are. So I got busted. Anyways, the floor is yours, and you can introduce yourself to our council.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mayor and Council and Linda. So my name is Urania Melgar, and I'm coming from the city of Richmond Hill. Very excited to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you and all of the control group members as we move forward. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard to the county, that is. Okay. Well, thank you, Linda. We appreciate your reports. And I believe we have a
Linda, this is Glenn. I have one quick question. Could you maybe just speak a little bit to the emergency declaration discussion?
I certainly can do that for you, Glenn. Yes. You had asked for that. So I've talked to a few council members or councils about the declaration at their request, and just maybe give a highlight, because a lot of things, we're now seeing cases start to go back up across some of the provinces, and that's a little concerning. We've had some discussions. There's been some question about what the province is going to do. So just to give you a bit of background about the provincial side of the response, they had declared an emergency under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. And under the act, they have the opportunity to issue orders, and we're all very familiar with all of the orders they had been issuing over the last several months. As of the end of July, they did not, there's a process for the province to continue their emergency declaration. It'll expire if they don't continue it. That's not the same approach with municipalities. Once we declare an emergency, they stay in effect until we terminate them. So instead of reissuing the declaration at the end of July, they created that new piece of legislation, the Reopening of Ontario Act, where they transferred the orders created under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act to that piece of legislation. They went over as is. And that still allows the province then the ability to move areas if they feel they need to, or the province through different stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, they're still in effect. Or if there's other orders that they feel they need to fall back on, they still have that capability. Whereas you don't have that capability under an emergency declaration at the municipal level. Once you no longer declare an emergency or terminate it, should you want to start to for the head of council to then make orders or take actions to expedite the decision-making process in an emergency, you would then have to redeclare the emergency. So we're still seeing, in my view, I've been suggesting to both. I know it seems, why are we doing it? Everything is moving along. Councils are meeting, making decisions, which is great. I don't think the declaration has impeded the council decision-making process in any way, which is good. There's been a lot of legislation put forward for the province to facilitate that, which is good. But it's still there should things should cases significantly increase and the situation worsens, which we hope it doesn't. But in a lot of cases, a lot of municipalities aren't back to where they were prior to COVID. And Puslinch, in case in point, is you're still not open to the public. You're still operating through electronic meetings and other. So it's really not business as usual. And in that regard, I'm saying it for now. I think just to be patient and we stay the course and we continue with the declaration. And finally, in closing, I think it shows and demonstrates to the residents that you're still serious about it, that there still is an issue out there that we need to continue to follow all the public health protocols in order to ensure that we get this disease under wraps. So that would be my comments with respect to where we're kind of at today and the emergency declaration. So any questions on that one, I'd be happy to answer those as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Any questions, Council? None. Okay. Thank you again, Linda. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great day. Nice meeting you,
Thanks.
Irina. Okay.
Thank
So we
you.
have a resolution there, Miss.
Yes, that report EM-2020-001, 2020 regarding the new emergency response plan be received, and that council authorizes the passing of a bylaw adopting the 2020 emergency response plan for the Township of Puslinch, County of Wellington, and member municipalities.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Spoulos, seconder. Councillor Goida, all in favor. Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
I'm in favor. That's carried. You. All right. Creation on correspondence. I believe we are all the way down to council reports. And we've just included in the addendum the letter to the city of Guelph that I penned, and I asked Councillor O'Rourke from the city of Guelph if she had seen it. I haven't heard anything back, and she apologized, said yes, I had seen it, I forgot to get back to you. And then we were talking about meeting with Councillor O'Rourke and Councillor McKinnon, those are the two Ward 6 representatives that are our neighbors, and discuss this letter. And then my kid got a COVID test and I'm on lockdown. So if I get the negative test back for my son, then maybe we can still keep that meeting on Friday, but it'll have to be next week. I really want to see some additional enforcement on Victoria Road, south of Clare, to keep the heavy truck traffic off of that, and some other components of the letter. So, and the other thing I have to read, and I just have to pull up here, is we had our meeting, Glenn and I, with CBM officials in regards to that noise complaint. And so we have some bullets here for the main points of the discussion. I'll start off by saying the meeting went very well. They kept reiterating that they want to be good neighbors. They want to make sure that people are not upset by their operations, and they've implemented some things to try to ensure that there isn't any abnormal noises coming from their operations. So I'll read some of these bullet points for council. The two main issues were discussed: noise complaints identified in March and a recent noise complaint, which would be last week or week and a half ago. In looking at their operating records, they were working only one day of the 3 days referenced in March. They were not operating the other 2 days. This came to a surprise to me as well, but this particular site has no hours of operations restrictions on their provincial license, so CBM can operate 24/7. And they mentioned that they're operating 24/5, and then 2 10-hour days, Saturday and Sunday. So it's interesting how each license, all within a small geographic area, has different restrictions on operations.
It has to do with when they were approved too.
Yeah, yeah. Back in maybe that's an older one, and they allowed them just give her. So they said their operations are based on the need, even though licensed there are numerous times they do not operate. They have retained a third-party independent noise consultant to assess their operations in terms of compliance with MECP requirements. Based on a report from that consultant, their operations fall within the requirements of the MECP. They indicate they have not altered their operations since that assessment. They have on numerous occasions, early in the AM and the evening, weekends, attended the site in nearby areas to listen to sound levels. No concerns were identified, so they have their staff driving around and doing their own spot checking. They have directed staff, and this is an important one, they have directed all staff that if they are working and the equipment has a problem or creates a new noise, they should stop it right away and fix it and not wait till the end of the shift. So as soon as they get a bad roller, noisy belt, you know, bad bearing, they're shutting their whole operation down, that component, and they're having their maintenance company crews come in and fix it. They usually have regularly scheduled open houses with the community to explain operations and answer questions. Unfortunately, with COVID, they weren't able to do that. They requested that if a noise concerns are identified, that they are contacted directly as soon as possible so they can attend, both to fix the noise if it is one and also confirm whether it's them. And then review the noise of the complainant and then go assess their operations, see if it's in fact the source of the concern. They indicated that if the noise was confirmed to be from their operations, that they would be willing to reposition operations if possible to minimize noise. They talked about that if something is identified, they would stack the gravel in a different location to help act as a noise berm. So you can just kind of tell the context of the meeting. They received this very well, and they were wanting to work with us. You know, that was not the case. With regards to the recent complaint, it indicated that the plant was running for a couple hours prior to when it was heard. The plant ran from 7:30 through to 2 a.m. over Tuesday night shift. CBM indicated that they will continue to monitor their operations and address any equipment that may be causing increased noise immediately. They said they'd also be interested in providing a tour on a small scale, individuals of their operations to help alleviate these concerns with the noise. What else? So they provided some contact information, and I'm not, with discussions with the CAO, I was concerned with making all 3 of them public right away. So I believe the CAO is going. Ms. Glenn, have you decided which one they wanted as a contact point for future noise complaints?
Yeah, it will be Steve, and I will forward that information to all members of council so that if you do get a complaint, and he requested too that if you do get a complaint that the public or members of council or staff, we get a complaint, we contact him directly. That way they can respond right then and not, you know, a few days after the fact, because then it's tough to follow up for sure on a complaint, right? So I did get that information from Steve, and I will forward that to all members of council.
So I'm going to read his, would that be improper to read his contact information for the public that may be watching? So they have that?
Sure, that'd be fine. That's what he offered. So yeah, that's fine. But
Okay.
we will circulate to council as well.
So, okay. So his name's Steve May, and for questions and concerns, and his cell is 647-637-6707. And his email is Stephen, STEPHEN .may, M-A-Y, at BCIMENTOS.com. So Stephen.may at bcmentos.com. And that would be a great starting point for future complaints regarding noise possibly associated with their operations. I believe that's the gist of it. Glenn, did you want to add anything?
No, that's correct. Just
Uh,
the tone that I got from them is they're interested to hear what the complaints are so that they can address it. They weren't just trying to put stuff off. They said they want to be a good neighbor, good corporate citizen. And the sooner they can hear about noise complaints, the more directly they can investigate it and see what the cause and fact is, and to see if there's something that they can do to address it.
I can second that. It was very well received, and it was a great meeting actually. So we'll open it up to council for questions. We'll start. Councilor Bailey, do you have any questions or concerns on those two items?
Nope. I don't have any questions, but I might be interested in a tour.
Okay, Councilor Goida, or sorry, wrong way. Councilor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all that work, and thank you, Mr. CAO, for attending as well. I appreciate that. You know, pre-COVID, many of the operators used to have an annual open house that would give everybody an opportunity to see the places in action and get a tour, and so I could understand when we did get complaints or people had questions about the operations, we could understand what goes on in there, and also helps us interpret the monitoring reports that we get too, when we understand what actually happens behind those berms. For those that actually built berms, for those that didn't, well, then we knew there was supposed to be one. So it was always very helpful, and so I appreciate them in the past making those offers and having the open houses and continuing to make those offers even though we have more restrictions. So, and thanks again for taking care of this.
Okay, Councilor Goida.
I apologize. I got booted out there for a few minutes, no internet, so I kind of missed everything you just said. So for now, I'm going to say I have no questions.
Okay, you can watch it on YouTube later, and then you'll be able to bring yourself up to speed. Councilor Spoulos.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. CEO, for going out and meeting with the pit operator. Hopefully, with the ability to contact this individual directly, it might allay some of the concerns the residents have, but we'll see as time progresses.
Excellent. And I would encourage.
One thing I would just add, though, is that obviously this is the contact for the one operator. It's not all gravel pits there from different companies and different things. So hopefully that he's not going to be getting calls about other operations that he's not involved with. Just to note that he's not the contact for everybody, just for their own facilities.
That's right.
Understood.
And I would encourage Councilor Spoulos, if a member reaches out to you, that they keep council in the loop when he emails Mr. May. That way, we kind of have a record of how many complaints are coming in. Just so if we do have to revisit this. So, okay.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. And council have any other reports they want to bring forward? Councilor Bummer.
I do. Yeah, so this is just reporting back on, you may recall at our last council meeting, I'd recently been invited to attend a meeting regarding a group that was being put together to look at how to support going back to work and staying back at work in the COVID-19 crisis. So this was organized by a Puslinch company called Novometrics, run by Dr. Jeff Wilson. And what Novometrics does is they pull together people from a variety of disciplines, backgrounds to help to work on a problem. So this includes people from the for-profit, not-for-profit, public sector, community building sector. It's usually unusual bedfellows, perhaps, who are interested and willing to work to solve a problem of common interest. And in this case, under the umbrella of Novometrics so far, they put together kind of out of a request from the federal public health agency, they pulled together a team to look at how to support back to work and back to school in the pandemic. Because this is an area that public health is doing individual testing, but public health agencies don't have the capacity to do work or to test what actually works in the workplace. So they ran a pilot at Linamar, at one of the Linamar plants, to get a handle on what works and what doesn't work in terms of screening, what works and doesn't work in terms of testing, what works and doesn't work in terms of organizing work in the workplace. And a lot of very fascinating results so far, which I can talk about in a minute, but just to give you a sense, I have asked for, last week I spoke to Glenn about this, and of course, we all want that one pager. And I've spoken to them a couple of times, and every time they go to write the one pager, they learn something new, moving on to the next step, and it changes. So I'm hoping, they're hoping that by the end of this week or next, they'll have something more stable, because it's amazing how many things they're trying to test and model. Now, the leader of this group is Dr. Doug Fryers, who runs the COVID testing clinic in Guelph. And his team includes epidemiologists, business people, community builders, veterinarians, doctors. And some of the things they were testing included Bluetooth badges in the workplace that would give you that proximity alert, but also then record who you were close to. So in the event that someone tests positive in the plant, they know who to contact. They know who you were in close proximity with. And these things address the privacy issues of having it on a phone app, because these are only worn when you're in the plant. They were doing screening at the door to see how effective is temperature screening, and also they were testing other screening techniques such as smell testing. Other countries had used smell testing as a screening tool because a change in smell or taste is a very strong indicator if someone's been exposed to COVID-19. They're using that in some of the South American countries, but the twist they're bringing to it is that while other countries were using sort of average smell results or taste results from across society, they've been working with CompuSense here in Guelph, a company that trains people to be tasters and smellers, in order so that employees in the test site, everybody got their own smell or sniff profile, and then staff were trained to administer the sniff test, and it was 80% predictive of someone who was positive for COVID-19, compared to a temperature test, which was only 20%. And the smell test, within 3 or 4 days of exposure, it would have that effect, whereas it could be much later for the temperature. These are all things that they're working towards. They're also working on saliva testing to make it faster and quicker. They want to determine how much testing is necessary when combined with an appropriate screening tool. There's so many balls in the air. So I was pleased that I was asked to attend to learn some of this stuff, but to understand our role right now, or whether it be available for our staff or our local school, it's a bit on the early side. They just wanted to make sure that we were aware that this is going on out there, so that if it moves into the next stage and they're looking for, they're in the future, they may be looking for municipal partners to run another pilot, because they're looking from different workplaces. That may be an ask. There may be an opportunity to acquire some learnings. It's still a work in progress. So I'm hoping to have a one-pager that we can give for Glenn, that he can review to see if there's anything that we can learn from this in the short term, while we wait for them to get the long-term results. But it's pretty exciting. This is all happening here in Wellington County, here in Puslinch, with the goal of growing it into something that can be applied nationally. So it was quite an interesting meeting.
Excellent. Thank you for taking that on, Councillor Bomer. Any other reports for council from council members? Councillor Goder, are you still with us? Yep. All right. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to bylaws. Ms. Hoyt-Fox.
That the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-042 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a cost-sharing agreement, bylaw enforcement services. Bylaw 2020-043 being a bylaw to appoint a bylaw officer / property standards officer. Bylaw 2020-044 being a bylaw to appoint an emergency management coordinator. And bylaw 2020-046 being a bylaw to provide for the approval of a municipal emergency response plan.
Excellent. Can I get a mover for those, please? Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Ballmer, any discussion before we vote? Looks good. All right, all in favor? Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
Favor.
and Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Now, I believe we're going to move into closed session. So I want to thank any participants in the gallery for joining us today. And Ms. White Fox, do you have a resolution to move us into closed?
That council should go into closed session under section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of 13.1, adoption and receipt of the minutes of the previous closed meeting, being September 2nd, 2020 closed meeting. 13.2, confidential verbal report from Kevin Thompson, Smith Valeriat Law Firm regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, being Alpat Appeal PL 200037. 13.3, confidential report ADM 2020-035 from Courtney Whitfox, Deputy Clerk, and Kevin Thompson, Smith Valeriat Law Firm regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being the kennel and licensing bylaw. 13.4, confidential verbal report from Tom Holinsky, Arid Barrellis, regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being the site alteration bylaw. And 13.5, confidential verbal report from Glenn Schwendinger, CAO Clerk, regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board.
Excellent, thank you. A mover for that, please. Councillor Goida, seconder. Councillor Spillis, all in favor. Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. We shall move into close. All right, Ms. Hoyt Fox, if you could read that resolution to receive that verbal report for all the closed session.
Yes, I'll just read the one to move us into open.
Sure.
So that council moves into open session at 5:54 p.m.
Mover for that, please. Councillor
I'll
Spillis,
move.
seconded. Councillor Ballmer, all in favor. Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
and I am in favor. That's carried. Ms. Hoyt Fox.
That council receives the 13.1 adoption and receipt of the minutes of the previous closed meeting, being September 2nd, 2020 closed meeting. 13.2, confidential verbal report from Kevin Thompson, Smith Valeriat Law Firm regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, Alpat Appeal PL 200037. 13.3, confidential report ADM 2020-035 from Courtney Whitfox, Deputy Clerk, and Kevin Thompson, Smith Valeriat Law regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, kennel and licensing bylaw. 13.4, confidential verbal report from Tom Holinsky, Arid Barrellis regarding advice that is subject to, sorry, I lost my spot there, that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being the site alteration bylaw. 13.5, confidential verbal report from Glenn Schwendinger, CAO Clerk, regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and that council authorized staff to develop and report back on a recommended approach for the housekeeping amendment to legalize the existing licensed kennel operations in order to meet the requirements of the existing kennel bylaw 0899 as amended, and that staff proceed as directed and present the draft site alteration bylaw to council for discussion and consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Hoyt Fox, for reading all of that. All right, need a mover for that, please. Councillor Goida,
Sure.
seconded by Councillor Spillis. All in favor. Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Any business arising from the closed session? None. Notice of motion? Anybody have any notice of motion? No. Any new business? No. All right, announcements? See none? Okay, Ms. White Fox, the conformatory bylaw.
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-045 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Puss Lynch at its meeting held on the 16th day of September.
Thank you. Get a mover for that, please. Counselor Bailey.
Yep.
Seconder, Counselor Ballmer. All in favor, Counselor Bailey.
In favor.
Counselor Ballmer.
Favor.
Counselor Goida.
In favor.
Counselor Spillis.
In favor?
And I'm in favor. That's carried. And our adjournment, please.
The council hereby adjourns at 5:57 PM.
A mover for that, please. Counselor Spillis, seconded by Counselor Bailey. All in favor, Counselor Bailey.
In favor.
Counselor Ballmer.
Favor.
Counselor Goida.
In favor.
Counselor Spillis.
Favor?
I'm in favor. That's carried. Okay. I'll see everybody in an hour.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
hour off. Bye-bye.